Well, ladies and gentlemen, that comes to the end of a very full and fragrant day. Before we close, though, I would like to invite the Federal Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment, Senator the Honourable Stephen Birmingham, to address us this afternoon. Minister has served as a Liberal Party Senator for South Australia since May of 2007, and in August of 2018 was appointed as Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment, as well as Deputy Leader of the Government in the Senate. Prior to entering the Senate, the Minister worked for several industry bodies, establishing experience in the wine, tourism and hospitality sectors. We're very pleased that he's with us here this afternoon to give us some closing remarks. Please welcome Minister Birmingham.
Maybe I should have followed you and beat down your door.
Well, thanks so very much for that welcome. I'm very conscious as the closing speaker today at the Destination Australia conference that I am the last thing standing between everybody and drinks. And so I'm confident that a politician's speech, you're eager for me to go for as long as I possibly can, cover as much ground as I can and ensure that you can all stay sober just that little bit longer. Can I start by acknowledging the Meanjin people and all of Australia's Indigenous peoples, and as Tourism Minister in doing so, acknowledge current elders and Indigenous peoples who provide an increasing contribution to our tourism industry, are a critical component of the authenticity of the Australian experience, and indeed we value and thank the strong forging partnership that is occurring at all levels of the tourism sector between our Indigenous nations and tourism providers. There's so much to be proud of and be positive about Australia's tourism industry, and I know that you as operators, marketers, those working across the industry, of course, are the people who drive that positivity, who make it possible for some $136 billion worth of economic activity to be driven and generated out of 9.25 million international visitors to our shores. And these are overwhelmingly, as you've been discussing today, high-value visitors, visitors who are discerning, who can make choices in their lives about where they go, what they do, but they choose to come to Australia, and they choose to come to Australia thanks to the quality of our tourism product, to the strength of our marketing and message, and the fact that those of you here and across our industry keep working very hard to drive that. And we've been enjoying something of a boom time these last few years. Over the last 5 years, international visitor numbers have grown by around 45-46% to Australia. That's huge growth relative to just the preceding 5 years, in which visitor numbers grew by just 10%. And that's been really important to us in terms of the economic impact. It's been a demonstration that the strategies that were put in place to underpin the 2020 targets are working and ensuring that we're on track to meet those targets, 99% achieved to date, and comfortably will be exceeded by the time we hit 2020. Now, today I woke up this morning and on my way to the airport got the message from my Chief of Staff, who's been my Chief of Staff ever since I've been a minister, and she was telling me that her dog had died last night. And that's a strange thing for me to raise with all of you. That was obviously sad news, and it brought back memories for me. She's got a little girl, a little bit older than my kids, and she was saying a tough day, going to have to tell Samantha that the dog's been there since before she was born. And I was brought back the memories for me of when I was a little boy and family dog died and those momentous occasions. And coming here, I was thinking, tourism industry, at its heart, you're in the business of creating memories. Thankfully, happier memories than, of course, the loss of a family pet, but creating memories, lifelong memories out of exceptional, unique experiences, out of quality family time, out of people being able to get away from their day-to-day lives and enjoy and experience something else. And so the memories business is critical. But how do you get people to come and make sure the memories they create in Australia? Well, in tourism marketing, you're of course in the inspiration business, inspiring people to come here to be able to create and generate those memories. That's what's essential and important in terms of the way that we convey our messages. And I know a lot of today has been about providing the motivation to think of better ways, new ways, to work in sync with the Tourism Australia campaigns that John O'Sullivan took you through this morning, and to talk about how at a local level, at a business level, you're able to actually create that inspiration that gets people through the door to be able to create memories. Now, this is a bit of a unique time in terms of government policy when it comes to tourism. It's unique because the Prime Minister happened to have walked in John's shoes previously. Scott Morrison, of course, was once Managing Director of Tourism Australia at these events, talking about the industry, the marketing campaigns, and how to drive our tourism business further. And that means we're in a good place for me as Minister, a good place for the industry, to be able to make sure that at the highest levels of government, you have our ear, you have our backing. That's why we've been working through in our investment in TA, maintaining, boosting where we can in targeted ways, record contributions through Tourism Australia. Making sure that we focus hard on where we can invest, targeted investment to lift airline capacity and opportunities into Australia. You know, we've opened up and are opening up international airline access into Avalon, into Newcastle, into Hobart. All of those are investment decisions that a government makes to be able to say, yes, we want those destinations to be able to receive extra support in terms of international flights coming in and getting a bigger, broader regional spread of tourists. We don't seek to do that at the expense of elsewhere. We seek to do that whilst also trying to do everything we can to support existing flights and more flights and direct capacity into all of the existing markets as well. But it's about spreading the benefits as we seek to grow the pie. Equally, investment, of course, in the new Western Sydney Airport, trying to address one of the biggest capacity constraints that we have in terms of tourists coming from overseas and getting into Australia. The Sydney capacity constraint is a real one. And for a long time, governments have talked about the need for a second airport in Sydney. But now we're at the point where the dollars are committed, the plans are there, the approval's been given, a board's been set up, the infrastructure is about to be built. It's a reality, and it's one that will absolutely fundamentally change the way in which the tourism industry, along with all other aspects of trade and investment, work into the future. Looking in terms of our transport connection, just yesterday, the PM with Victorian Premier Dan Andrews was in Melbourne, signing off on the details to build the long-awaited train link to Tullamarine. Another project that's been talked about for a long time, but is a critical piece of infrastructure now to improve and enhance the connectivity to one of our peak gateway airports into Australia, and to make sure that it's easier for tourists and they have a better, higher quality experience when they're in Australia. These are all critical projects that underpin the type of work we're doing to now look beyond 2020. We've worked to the 2020 strategy, we've managed to meet its high-yielding targets, and now we look to the targets that can take us through to 2030 and the strategies that underpin that. That's why the Beyond 2030 strategy is out for consultation with all of you in the industry to seek your feedback about the priorities that our industry-based working group has identified for us to address in terms of tourism over the next decade. Number one, driving demand. Obviously, continued focus on our marketing, who, where, how, making sure that we keep driving that demand for people to come to Australia, converting their interest into, of course, an activation of bookings. Number two, data analytics. I can tell you at the last couple of meetings of state and federal tourism ministers, probably more time dedicated to discussing data analytics than just about any other topic, as we tackle with how it is we take the potential of new technology, which I know many of you do in your business as well, to be able to inform data and then use that to inform decisions. That we don't have to in the future be as reliant on survey-based methodology to find out where tourists go, what they spend and what interests them and what their reactions were. We know that simply by tracking and tracing their phones and their spending habits and their credit card use and so on, that we can get richer, more accurate, more timely sources of data. It's just a case of how you capture that and how you capture that in a cost-effective way that we can still continue to share with industry, as Tourism Research Australia does already. The capacity constraints. I've already spoken about the big capacity constraint being Sydney Airport, but also looking at capacity constraints in terms of shipping, cruising industry, those other sectors essential to looking beyond 2030. How we use technology to enhance the visitor experience. Now, that's something, again, in every business, in every marketing agency, I know people are looking at how they can better use technology. I was just out at the Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary today, not far from here, and as we walked past the new ticket screens, huge touch screens that have been inserted, and they were telling me, at our peak time in terms of visitor arrivals, we had people waiting up to 40 minutes to be able to buy a ticket to get into the place. Clearly a highly unsatisfactory experience. Now, by embracing technology to be able to handle those peak times, it's down to just a few minutes to be able to get people through, and of course a transformation with that in terms of the initial experience that a visitor has going into that business. So a national strategy focusing there on technology. Ensuring we have a skilled workforce, ensuring the sustainability of our footprint, knowing that the types of visitors a country like Australia is aspiring to attract are visitors who want a high quality experience, which means our workforce needs to be able to engage and deliver on that, and of course are discerning visitors who want to ensure that as they engage with nature and our wildlife and those unique experiences Australia has to offer, that there is also a sustainability underpinning that. So please engage, provide your feedback on the Beyond 2030 strategy. It has worked, having the 2020 strategy. It's got us to where we are. It's seen us come through a decade of huge growth, and we want to make sure we pursue that into the future. Equally, we know continuing to make sure that we make targeted tactical investments in unique visitor experiences is essential. So just over the last few months, we've announced huge plans for Kakadu, more than $200 million worth of investment to support Indigenous peoples of Kakadu, based out of a hub in Jabiru, to be able to really revive and transform the Kakadu visitor experience. Similar sorts of plans along the Shipwreck Coast or at Cradle Mountain, opportunities there, as well as continued focus on the other parts of the tourism infrastructure program that are needed to enhance visitor dispersal and experience. Here in Queensland, basics like the Bruce Highway. Yes, essential for locals, but critical as well to ensure that tourism dispersal is successful. Investment in the Townsville Airport, or just in the last few days, the $70 million worth of projects announced under the Building Better Regions Fund. Regional projects, many of them small, often targeted to help ensure higher quality visitor experiences, such as the Great Valley Trail in Victoria or the Australian Opal Centre in New South Wales. Across the marketing front, we want to continue to see a record investment used in a targeted and tactical way. John's taken you through, as I said, I know, the Dundee campaign, the Undiscover campaign, the work we have with the To Australian campaign, and of course our work in the Business Events Fund, another essential realisation where just 14 bids are generating around $190 million worth of extra economic activity thanks to successful investments under that Business Events Fund. Today, we've turned our focus to working holiday makers. We have around 300,000 working holiday makers who come to Australia. You all know that they're essential for two reasons. One is what they spend, what they contribute in terms of activity in the tourism industry. Working holiday makers, by and large, spend every dollar they earn while they're in Australia, spend the savings that they brought here to Australia in the first place, and call mum and dad and ask for more money to spend while they're here too. And that's a great thing for our industry, and we want to make sure we maintain that. But they also, for many parts of our industry, are critical sources of labour, of skilled labour, of people willing to work in especially seasonal jobs where we struggle to get employees. And we've seen a little bit of a downturn in working holiday makers from some of our traditional markets. So we now launch Australia Inc., new working holiday maker campaign targeted at the UK, France and Germany, $7.5 million for billboards, railway station posters, online presence, really trying to activate young people to think again about making Australia the choice for that rite of passage tour for a working holiday maker. And I think we have a little short clip in relation to that campaign that you're all about to see right now.
In an economically unstable and hyper-competitive world, less and less young people are taking working holidays. These young people are united by one thing: the fear of falling behind at home. For them, a year overseas is a year out of the job market or a year behind at uni. But a working holiday in Australia could be just what sets them apart. A chance to get off the conveyor belt of school to uni to job and forge their own path. A once-in-a-lifetime chance to stand out. A working holiday in Australia is an opportunity, a unique life experience that makes young people more attractive to employers, not less. And we're going to show them this by actually giving them something to put on their CV. Something bigger than just a working holiday. Something as big as Australia Inc., the best workplace in the world. Australia Inc. offers a workplace like no other. The progressive, innovative spirit of a startup, with the wisdom that comes with over 50,000 years' experience. Thousands of jobs across countless towns and cities, over 59,000 kilometres of coastline, unique characters and colleagues, unforgettable friends from here and around the world. The pay is flexible, the hours are flexible, and the views from the office, spectacular. From the pristine waters of Ningaloo Reef to the fields of far north Queensland, from picking grapes in the southwest to pulling beers in an outback pub with 50 of your new best mates, a job at Australia Inc. will challenge and inspire with skills you didn't know you had, experiences you didn't think possible, and memories that will last a lifetime. And that's something worth putting on your CV, courtesy of Australia Inc., the best workplace in the world.
It's a great looking campaign, and indeed, congrats to the TA team. Another campaign that creates that inspiration, we hope, for people to choose, to activate, to come to Australia, to make the decision that Australia Inc., the best workplace in the world. And look, I have to say, as Australia's Trade and Tourism and Investment Minister, I think I have probably the best job in the best workplace in the world. Large part of that is because I get to work with some of the best people. I really want to pay credit to the Tourism Australia team, leadership and staff, the creative agencies who work alongside them for their effort, but also to the industry for the fact that amongst many different industry sectors, tourism does take the time to engage with your national, your state and your regional tourism marketing bodies, to think about how you integrate campaigns, to make sure that you use data and information to inform decisions, and that really does make it, as a sector, one which I'm thrilled to work with and alongside, to be able to go out to the rest of the world wearing the hat as Investment Minister and to tell people they should invest in new product in Australia, invest in our hotels, bring their airlines here, and we're able to do that because of the credibility of the experiences on offer. Today is a great chance for all of you to have been able to discuss the opportunities for the future, and I know you'll want to do it all again next year. On my way in here, I was told that I was able to give you the details for next year's Destination Australia conference, which I am told is on March 12, and it's in Adelaide. Now, I had nothing to do with that, but I'm hoping that I'm able to be there with you on March 12 next year. Yeah, that's right, democratic process is willing. But if I am, I'll be able to just roll out of bed and come down the street and join you for what will be a sensational couple of days, I'm sure, in Adelaide, where we'll be able to reflect upon the achievements of this year to come, and again, look then at the finalised plan for beyond 2020 and all that we can do together as an industry to ensure success by 2030. Thanks so much for the chance to be with you today. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, Minister, for being with us. Stay optimistic. And that concludes presentations. Don't get up though, because John O'Sullivan, who is your Managing Director and potentially future PM, is going to just pop up and say a few thank yous.
Well, thanks, Sophie. You've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous in terms of promotions. But look, I just wanted to conclude today by firstly thanking each and every one of you. We know how busy you are as an industry. I mean, it's very easy for organisations like Tourism Australia to say, oh, let's do a conference, let's do it in Brisbane, let's get some speakers. But all of you have to give up time and money, and we know the value of that. So just wanted to say thank you so much for that. And we hope that you've enjoyed Destination Australia. We do try and make things a little different for you rather than the run-of-the-mill stuff that you hear from us, particularly during our industry briefings. So thank you again for taking the time today. I also just want to acknowledge some of the people that have been involved in bringing it together. Firstly, our amazing MC for today, Sophie Formica. So thank you very much. She's given me 3 jobs today, so that's fantastic. Can I also thank our Minister for making time to be with us today. It's obviously a very busy time, as you've heard, with his schedule here in Brisbane, but it's great that he's been able to make the time, come to talk to you and also launch Australia Inc. I was with him a couple of weeks ago down in Launceston, where Fitzy really turned on a scorcher of a day for the Australian Tourism Awards. So he has been very busy with the industry. So thank you to you, Minister, for being here. In particular, can I also thank our speakers? And our speakers, I think today, we always try and give some extra thought to people we know that are going to have relevant messages, not always from the sector, because we think it's important to really change that up. And all of our speakers have been amazing. Terry and Robert didn't really say to you just how important they are in terms of Australia's brand offshore. When we were doing the Dundee research, the Irwin family were as strong as the Crocodile Dundee / Paul Hogan character offshore. So they truly are an amazing tourism asset for them, and we hope that you got a lot out of that today. But in particular, to Giresh, to Juliet, and also to Sanjeev, who travelled from overseas to be part of today's festivities. We do certainly appreciate the long distances you've travelled to be here, particularly, and all of our speakers, as I said before. And then finally, from the Tourism Australia team, I'm very fortunate to work with a great group of people, some 200 and odd around the world, but in particular for today, can I just acknowledge David Ogle? He's the New Zealander down the back there. We've let him stay. To Dogle, he, as we call him, he really does pull all this together and all of the industry briefings together, supported by the great team in our corporate comms team, and to Sophie Treasure from our industry events team, who has pulled everything together today, despite my best efforts in fumbling with the video. So thank you so much. Have a great afternoon and this evening here in my hometown. Beers on the river, nothing better. And really do look forward to spending some time with you again. And thank you again for all your support. Cheers.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we end formalities for today. Once again, could you please leave your completed feedback forms on the table? It is now my great pleasure to invite everybody for networking drinks, where we have some extra special things for you. A couple of quick thank yous to the Howard Smith Wharves, offering tasting selection of carefully selected Australian wines. Sirame Queensland Winery, which is a member of the Ultimate Winery Experiences, offering some wine tasting, as well as Felons Brewery Company. Once you've got a drink in your hand, we'll have Luke Fraser, the CEO of Howard Smith Wharves, to tell us a little bit more about the fantastic precinct. For my fellow Queenslanders in the room, I'm very proud to say this Sunday night at 5:30 will be the first of a 3-part series that I'm doing for Channel 9 called Icons. It is a half hour looking at the 70 years of the Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers, which is, yay, wonderful, particularly after their win this year and induction into the Hall of Fame. So that's 5:30 Sunday. It will also play nationally next week. It has been my great pleasure to share today with you. Thank you so much for being such a gracious and engaged audience. Enjoy a drink by the river, as John said, and travel home safely. For those of you who are heading to the airport, the designated pick-up and drop-off zone is located just at the end there, where the roundabout is 5 Boundary Street on the other side of the restaurants. Once again, thank you all for coming, and travel home to wherever that may be safely. Thanks.